Culture Committee to lead us in our Negro National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing.
We should all stand.
Maybe y'all stand, please. Sing along with me if you can. If this is a song that's dedicated to us as a total collective. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song. Sing a song full of the faith and the darkness has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. They sing the rising sun. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur Penix. He is the chair of our Arts and Culture Committee that meets here at the House of Justice on Wednesday evenings.
Amen.
I'm going to go into the mission of our committee. As I stated earlier, the National Action Network Political Action Committee, which I've been chairing for approximately 10 years. I am Dornell Jones, National Board Member. Our meetings are held every fourth Saturday of the month, with the exception of August, when we are in Washington, D.C. with the March on Washington anniversary. Members can join by simply coming to a NANPAC meeting and signing the attendance sheet. And I would like to ask, we have an attendance sheet in the front, if you could please sign in along with a voter registration and information table. The National Action Network Political Action Committee is a forum to discuss issues that affect the membership, as well inform members about current legislation on the city, state, and federal level. The NANPAC is also a forum to recruit and train volunteers for political action activities. The NANPAC hosts Fifth Saturday Voter Education Forum Project Series, along with voter registration and information drives. This month, we had Constitution Day, where we in front of the House of Justice giving out pamphlets from the League of Women Voters. We also had National Voter Registration Day, where we gave out information. And as I stated, we have a table here on today. The Network's Political Action Committee has helped to win a number of key legislative and political victories that have benefited New York's members. Okay, I would like to do two things at this time. I would like to do a moment of silence. Bernard Placide Jr. was killed on September 3rd, 2022 in Englewood, New Jersey. His mom is here, and they are actually panelists on this afternoon for Primerica. And also, Andrew Jerome Washington was killed August 27, 2023 in Jersey City, New Jersey. Our own Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton preached his eulogy in remembrance of the innocent individuals still being killed. Let's remember these individuals who have had lives taken so unsuccessfully. So if we can have, so unnecessarily, so we could just stand and have a moment of silence for these two individuals. Thank you so much. I would like to now call on Dr. Alvin Ponder to give us greetings and welcome. And if any other panelists have come in, please join us at the front table.
Thank you, Dawn. Greetings on behalf of the New York City chapter of the National Action Network. I'm Dr. Alvin Ponder. I have the privilege of serving as Vice President, and I speak on behalf of my President, who is Mr. Bill Griffin. Ladies and gentlemen, we have done some magnificent things over the past year. As you know, this last month, I believe we went to Washington to celebrate the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington, while we addressed some significant matters that had occurred this past year. One of those things that we're fighting for is the action that resulted in gutting out affirmative action. And many of you and myself have benefited from affirmative action. I went to one of the most prestigious universities in the country. When I graduated, everybody wanted me to come to their school. And when I got my degree, all I had to do was show it, and I got a job. And I want my children and, well, my son did also get the same benefit, but I want my grandchildren to be able to have the benefits that was allowed for me. Welcome today, and did I congratulate you, Dawn, for 10 years of heading the Political Action Committee. One of our great committees that are addressing one of the major issues, and that is voter suppression. Thank you kindly. Bye.
Thank you, Dr. Ponder. And I don't know, he stated that he is chair of our Health and Wellness Committee, and he's here with us each and every Saturday morning giving us announcements.
Thank you.
At this time, I would like to call to do our statement of purpose, Jewel Gittens, my co-chair.
Good afternoon, everybody. I just basically want to say good afternoon. My name is Jewel Gittens, and I'm here to basically give us a statement of purpose. September is National Preparedness Month, and it's also Insurance Awareness Month, and National Preparedness and Community Leadership on genealogy and preparedness and insurance. September is National Preparedness Month, serving as a critical reminder that we must be ready year-round to protect our homes, community, businesses, and loved ones from the devastation caused by disasters of all types. Our preparedness nationally is being a secure and resilient nation with the capacities required across the whole country to prevent, protect against, mitigate, respond to, and recover from the threats and hazards that pose the greatest risk. Make sure everyone check, call, and care for your family and friends. There are 5 elements of preparedness and mission building. Preparedness consists of a continuous cycle of planning, organizing, training, equipping, exercising, evaluating, and taking corrective action. On the national preparedness level, this describes the areas as prevention, protection, mitigation, response, and recovery, along with 32 active and core capabilities that address the greatest risk to the nation. Each of these core capabilities is tied to a capacity target. The 4 pillars preparedness is a comprehensive guide to emergency preparedness focused on the fundamental survival aspect: food, water, location, medical needs, and assistance. And please make sure that we check on our neighbors, family, friends, and elders through video chats, phones, calls, and if necessary, going door to door to ensure that they are ready and for whatever actions is needed to be taken. Make sure your pets are safe and secure and you have stored food to feed them. Also make sure you have ample supplies, prescription, paper, personal needs, and priceless items available for necessary duration if need be. The 3 guiding principles of preparedness on a federal level, they are to achieve these minorities, incident management, personal cues for the National Incident Management System, which is called NIMS. NIMS components is accordance with guiding principle. These features, these six features indicate components that are the foundation in a systematic approach for responding to incidents: command and management, preparedness, resource management, communication and information management, supporting technology, and ongoing management and maintenance. NIM defines our organizational systems, including the incident command and the emergency operations system structures and various multi-agency coordination groups that guide our personal work together during incidents. NIM supplies all the incidents from traffic accident to major disasters. What is NIMS under FEMA? The National Incident Management System guides all levels of government, non-government organizations to the private sector to work together to prevent, protect against, mitigate, respond to, and recover from incidents. Also, let's provide flexibility, standardization, and unity of effort. These program responsibilities are to encompass 6 preparedness domains: community resilience, incident management, information management, countermeasure, mitigation, surge management, and biosurveillance. National preparedness is a continuous cycle of planning, organizing, training, equipping, exercising, evaluating, and taking responsive action. Training and exercise plan is a cornerstone of preparedness, which focuses on readiness to respond to all hazard incidents and emergencies. Using the pros and cons of all hazard approach to emergency management are one common misconception that all hazards planning means planning for everything that can go wrong, corresponding catalog of minute detail. But that's not true. Instead of all hazardous planning, focus on developing capabilities that matter when ongoing gets tough. You should be making sure businesses have training, supplies, leadership, and address the broad range of emergency rather than trying to plan every step, every kind of special hazard. The benefits of all hazardous planning, which is the primary benefit of the hazard approach, is that you are prepared, and not only you, but everyone, for any emergency resource for any type of flexibility, so you can work through any type of hazards, regardless of basically, what the strategy is. Make sure your emergency preparedness is more effective than scalability. Turn seamlessly monitor tasks into clear, executable plans. Ensure employees have a standard protocol to follow and minimize injuries to people and destruction and business property. You basically want to go into the insurance preparation. Say the inventory and photograph of your personal property, including models, serial numbers, and purchase information. Keep copies along with copies of your insurance policy in a safe location other than your home and business. What are the 5 types of personal disaster preparedness? Prevention, mitigation, preparedness, and again, these are the 5 steps of emergency management. Catastrophic insurance protects businesses and residents against the natural disasters such as earthquake, floods, and hurricanes, and against human-made disasters such as the riot or terrorist attacks. These are low probabilities but high-cost events generally excluded from standard homeowners insurance. Your home insurance policy covers many natural disasters and weather events, including wind, hail, lightning strikes, and wildfire, and also covers disasters. Also remember, catastrophic limits means the amount of coverage that applies to all losses in all locations during each separate 12-month policy period on this policy. This is limited to the expiration anniversary date, to ownership of the property in question, whether it be a home or business. Also remember that FEMA responds to all declared domestic disasters and emergencies, whether natural or man-made or home or business related. And what is considered a catastrophic loss? A catastrophic loss refers to the type of loss that is extremely serious and random. In other words, it's one of the devastating effects that cannot be foreseen. Thus, it's very difficult to prepare without insurance. What declares an insurance catastrophic? A catastrophic, as defined in the insurance industry, is a natural disaster that causes a certain dollar amount. Usually, currently set at like $25 million in insurance damages. Individual insurance companies may declare a catastrophic based on the anticipated loss for their policy in this indicated area. Everyone, again, please make sure you and your family are insured. We have valuable panelists. We have various panelists here that will talk to you and speak to you about what is needed and how to obtain insurance for any injury or devastation that may occur. And I'll turn the program over back to Mr. The Ceremony. Thank you.
I would like to ask this time for our presenter, Kay Marie Presley, NAN Community Membership Leader, Genealogy National Preparedness Committee, speaking on community leadership on genealogy.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Good morning, family. Good morning. Good morning. All right. I want to thank you, Dawn, and thank you to everyone that is here. And I also want to, as I said, give first honor to God, our Savior, Lord Jesus Christ. We are here alive in the House of Justice again one more time, and That's just a blessing. Amen? All right, so, they've asked me to talk on the topic of ancestral genealogy, and I'm going to be brief, right? 2 minutes? Okay, all right. I want to make sure, because I'm a stickler for time myself. So, genealogy starts with us, really. When I looked at it, and the word genealogy, it relates to our ancestral history, and it starts with you and me. It starts with ourselves. If we do not know where we came from, then we will not have an idea of where we're going. And one of the things that I like about Reverend Sharpton is that he's always here instructing, teaching, and helping us to understand not just the present, but also the past. Because if we lose that, which helped to form us, then we have nothing to strive for. So, I thank God for the leadership of this house. I've been a part of National Action Network for over 20 years now. I started in Atlanta, Georgia, and then when I relocated here back to New York, and the message has always been the same. Reverend Sharpton has consistently helped us to understand that what we see here was already here because of the foundational principles of our ancestors. He has always made sure that he gives us not just things from himself, but from a biblical genealogy perspective, even as far as to the birth of Christ. So sometimes when I'm at National Action Network, or if I'm even listening to it, I feel like I'm in church. I feel like I'm in church because Dr. Sharpton has always brought us back to our spiritual heritage, okay? There are so many different parts of our genealogy as far as our heritage is concerned. And as I say, even biblical, culturally, we have to know, and we are dependent on leadership. Now, a lot of times when people ask who is a leader, we kind of tend to look outside of ourselves, and that's okay. Growing up, we had our parents, we had our aunts, we had uncles, we had teachers, right? But, when you look in the mirror, that's who a leader is. It's you, it's me, it's all of us collectively being leaders from what we learn. So what we learn, we should implement it in our daily lives. So I'm looking at, moving forward, we have to look backwards. We can never dismiss what we have learned from our ancestors. Now, because of our heritage, which is located and our origin in Africa, we come from many different places, so we look like different people, right? And when we came here, we came unwillingly, our ancestors on ships. Some of us went to the Caribbean, some of us came here to North America, and some of us even went to South America. But you know what? Ancestrally, we all bleed red. Because if I should go to the doctor tomorrow, and because something happened, he's not gonna expect green blood to come out, right? He's not gonna expect yellow blood or whatever, or Hispanic blood. It's the same. There are certain things that we have inherited because we are people of the earth and from African descent. Now, I believe that when our ancestors came here, one of the primary things that God showed them that they need to be ready for, whether it's natural or a man-made disaster, is to teach those that are here what to be prepared for. Not just when you have a disaster, but for our daily survival. So we look at the natural disaster as awareness, and they say global warming. Global warming. Yes, the earth is warming, but there is also God's warning to the earth. So we can look at it on a global scale, but God is speaking to the earth. And he spoke through our ancestors. There was so much wisdom. Wisdom doesn't mean gray hair. You can get gray hair as early as 30. So let's not think that, I'm older because at this age. We're older and we're wiser, according to the book of Proverbs, is because we see God. We see God in in whatever it is. And it doesn't mean that we're churchified and Christianified, but it just means just getting up every day and asking the Lord to help us with everything and in everything that we do. So I look at our ancestors and I speak about the God of our ancestors. And one of the things that was necessary for survival was water, very important. The earth is made up of approximately 70% water. And so is our bodies. So we are supposed to be flowing in nature with the earth, right? And a lot of times, even this summer, when I walked around my community of Harlem, I saw the hydrants being open. And there's nothing wrong with hydrants being open. Am I correct? Raise a hand if you think, you know. But why should we have it on full blast, wasted water? So I used to, whenever I went on my daily walks, I would call 311, being proactive, not nosy, and I would call it. If it doesn't have that little thing on it that's, you know, kind of trickling it out, then it's just gushing out. And you wonder, the God of our ancestors who gave us all of this, the God of our ancestors who gives us water, so now we're here, we're so free, and we belong to this free world, we're just going to make it waste like that. And we do nothing. So this summer, as I walked around and I observed my neighborhood of Harlem, I called 311, and they put me in touch with the fire department. And I told them, on 159th and whatever it is, there is a fire hydrant. Because that's gushing water that we need as part of our ancestral survival, as part of our godly, spiritual survival. And it's part of our duty to say something. See something, say something. Yes. Isn't that what we have been taught? Yes. Amen? Praise God. Food. Food is very important. Very, very important. You know, today food is a medicine that we take at least 3 times a day. That's what I was told. Whatever you put in is what you're going to get out. You know, whatever you put in is what we're going to get out. You know, today we have so much illnesses and so much sicknesses. And yes, some of it is emotional, some of it is generational trauma. But a lot of it is because of what we open our mouth and say, to. And we're not thinking. We just open and we eat. Amen. You know, and I'm guilty. I'm the first one to tell you. I'm not here standing with a halo over my head. I've eaten stuff that I had no business eating because I had no business eating it. It wasn't a part of my spiritual and ancestral DNA. But I got it, and then I ate it, and I ate some more until I got feeling sick one day, and then the doctor said, oh, you are on borderline diabetic. Wow. You know, when I got that news, it was a wake-up call. It was a wake-up call 2 years ago. Because I think, you know, I walk and I can do what I want, and, you know, I mean, I was eating well, but certain things I overindulged in. And one of them was butter pecan ice cream. Raise a hand. Love butter pecan. There you go. I got some butter pecan lovers in the house. Amen. So, you know, I ate it every single night. I felt that I had the money and the God-given right to go purchase me a half a gallon of butter pecan ice cream. I know, it was good, but it wasn't good for my body because when I got to the doctor's office 2 years ago, and my doctor said, Miss Presley, and he took, you know, they did how they do their whatever, you are pre-diabetic. And I'm like, oh no, not me. It's like the doctor telling you you're pregnant and you know you had sex last night, but you're still denying, right? And I was in denial, trust and believe. I was in serious denial. He gave me medicine, I didn't take it. I was like, you know, and I was still eating my butter pecan ice cream. And then he told me, Miss Presley, you are diabetic. Uh-oh. Can you believe that? Yeah. So, and back to the story now with our ancestral food. There are certain foods that have been put here by God. First of all, if we read in Genesis about the garden, we were born in a garden. So most of our diet should be fruits. There was no butter pecan ice cream in Eden. Although I would have loved that to hear that because it would give me the liberty to just indulge. But there was no butter pecan ice cream in the Garden of Eden. So, what is my excuse? I have none. So food is important. Our ancestors came here and everything was coming from the ground. And we were planting and we were industrious. It was work that gave us worth. You know, today we look at work as something, oh, we can't even make our kids clean their room. That's work? I wish that was work when you and I were growing up.
Right.
I spent many, many summers on my grandparents' farm, which is still in the family in Jamaica. Because my mother needed a break. So she sent us there, me and my sister, and my cousins and everybody. And you know what? That was work. Because you know what? With my grandparents, you learn about food. Although they didn't have no cooking class, you had to learn. And guess what? They had no electricity. They had an outhouse and no electricity, but big shiny lamps. You would never even miss the lights. And you had to clean those lampshades every morning. Okay, I learned how to milk a cow. I learned how to milk a goat. And I learned where my food came from because every morning you got to go to the chicken coop and collect the eggs for breakfast. There was no Walmart. There was no Stop and Shop. There was none of that. And you know what? Praise God, they died. My grandmother died at 102. Wow. Yes, praise God. And my grandfather, he was close to 100. Wow. And no sickness. They died in their sleep. They just went on to Jesus.
Praise God.
And I looked at that example. I didn't hear about no diabetes, no nothing, no medicine. They went outside and they took herbs from the ground. And then once a month, they gave you a spoonful of castor oil. Wash it out. Everything you ate had to come out. They recycled our system. So that's where we come from. We come from a people that was conscious about their food.
Yes.
So we too need to be conscious. I don't care if you have to read the box or if we need to be conscious, including myself. Okay, I'm going to move on to finances because that's part of what's going on here today. So we have food finances. Oh, I skipped shelter and safety. Shelter, we need housing, right? We need housing. And we go to Albany all the time and we fight to have housing. Okay? That's very important. Food, clothing, and shelter. But you know what? In the Bible, there is nothing about housing. What did God promise us in the Bible when he talked about housing? What did he promise us? Anybody can answer that? What did God promise his people? Yes.
Food and raiment.
Food and raiment. And what else? If you obey him, just
Supply all your needs.
he will supply all your needs. But housing was one of them. But did he ever tell you that you're going to have a house? No. What did he say?
No.
You will inherit the land. Land.
yeah,
We
land.
need to be land ownership.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of times we fight for rent control. You know, the Lord had to slap me upside my head and said, Kay Marie Presley, you need to own your own house. Or we need to talk about that. And how do we get into ownership? We got to have finances.
Right.
We got to have money.
Yeah.
There is no way any bank or any place is going to give us something if we don't have some kind of financial power.
Right.
You know, I'm happy to see all the insurance agencies represented here, or because you know what, I used to sell insurance at one time. I worked for MetLife. That was my first job. And you know, when I started there, I was just looking for a JOB, the journey of the broke.
Right.
Right? I was not looking for nothing else. I just wanted some money. So I ran up in there and I got a very good lesson. You know what that was about? You need life insurance. Sure, we need blessing assurance. Amen? Because that's what God gives. Blessing assurance. But we need life insurance, not just for the living and not just when you die, but for the people that you're going to leave behind.
Yeah.
Too many of our black people in our communities, we suffer because when your parents die or when we die, we got to go around with a hat and collect the burial money. It's embarrassing. My first policy I sold to my mom. My mom is now 88, thank God, she's still alive, and she still has that policy.
Wonderful.
Can you believe that? And it's a whole life policy. It's not cheap. Whole life is expensive. I was trying to sell her term, and she said no, and she read the paperwork, and she kind of mulled over. She said, I want that. I want that. I want the whole life. And she bought the whole life. She purchased other insurance along the way, but it taught me something. So everywhere that we go, we gotta learn something. Finances is important. We gotta teach our children. Every dollar you get, don't let it burn a hole in your pocket and go spend it. We used to have piggybacks.
Yeah.
We used to have where the children drop something. Teach our children and grandchildren from early to drop a quarter in there, drop 4 quarters in there. Have that piggyback of pride. Take that child to the bank when that piggyback is full. It doesn't matter if it's $20.
Right.
That is compound interest. I had to learn that too. When you think that your money is not growing, you can put it in whatever you want to. Mutual fund, the bank, but put it somewhere other than in the shopping mall.
Right.
You know, we shop until we drop. There's only one suit going to the cemetery. That's what the whole
That's
world
right.
told me.
That's right.
One suit. All the clothes that I have in my closet, just one suit. I know when Aretha Franklin died, they changed her 3 times because they had to view her 3 times. You know, they changed her clothes. I read it somewhere. But you and I, we're not Aretha.
Right.
We ain't getting no 3 suits. We gonna get one suit and a trip to the cemetery.
That's right.
So choose where we put our money. Okay? Safety. I want to talk about safety, being safe, because of that's a part of our ancestral heritage, and be prepared. Yeah, we look at our ancestors and we realize that they had tribal wars, right? From the beginning of time, man has been at war with himself
Yes.
and with others.
Yes.
But as we grow, we should know that we are our brother's keeper.
Amen.
I need you as much as you need me. Maybe not for the same things. Maybe not. I'm not saying you are my God, I'm your God. No, but at some point, our lives will cross each other. And you don't know. It might be your child, it might be my grandchild. You just don't know.
That's right.
So we are here and responsible for keeping others safe. There is no more greater time in history than we should be protecting and loving each other,
That's right.
caring for each other, not getting on each other's nerve or trying to figure out a way how to, be jealous of a sister or be jealous of a brother or something like that. No, we all bleed red. One trip to the cemetery. And the older you get, the more.
Closer.
We're supposed to have more awareness. Safety. I talk about safety because the other day I was sharing with Dawn, and I just have to say, my own personal safety was threatened. And when we talk about black on black crime in our community, that's what it is. Black on black crime. Why, I don't have to be afraid of Donald Trump. He ain't coming up in Harlem. I don't have to be afraid of, I've got to be afraid of my own brothers and sisters.
That's it.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that?
Sad.
On September the 8th, after 3 years of dealing with housing issues and a lot of stuff, and the police telling them I'm not safe, I was assaulted in my apartment.
Wow.
This September here, I was in the hospital, New York Presbyterian Hospital, with a concussion that lasted 3 days. I was hospitalized.
Wow.
Was it a Chinese man? No, it wasn't. Was it an Indian man? No, it wasn't. It was one of our own. And although the police are out looking for it, but it hurts me to know that we gotta put this on a brother.
Yeah.
It hurts. Do you think I get joy and peace from knowing that it's a brother or a sister?
That's pain. Pain.
There is no joy in that, because he could have been my son, my nephew, my dad. Our safety for each other and caring for each other is important. When we have members that come here, we ought to treat them with love and respect. Amen? We got members that come here that don't want to come back. I had a member,
Yes.
her name is Lena, and I speak on Lena, and I missed Lena because she was here. I spoke to Sheldon. I said, Sheldon Frisbee, where is Lena? I called Lena. He gave me the number. She said, I've been so wounded. I've been so hurt. And I'm wondering, I'm thinking she's going to say something about her job. Or she said it came from here. She said, I was so traumatized.
Yes.
We need to address those. I don't want to go on and on, but we need to talk about caring for each other in the community, loving each other, and having discussions about everything. Because I believe that's what represents. Amen? And I'm going to move on, and then I'm going to close. I'm going to close because I don't here talking, but, you know,
Yeah.
I'm putting on my heart what God placed on my heart.
Yes.
I can't be a
We need it.
hypocrite.
We need the
I
truth.
can't do it.
Truth set you free.
You know, my grandparents raised me, and my grandmother said, what doesn't come out in the rinse will come out in the wash.
That's right.
She didn't have a lot of money, and she had no electricity, but she spoke through to power.
Yes.
We gotta be truthful. Now, as I said, I'm gonna close with how do we help to keep our ancestral self together. Number one, and I took this from the internet, it's not my idea, we have to trace our roots. Make sure, amen, that we know where we come from. There's a lot that I don't know still, but I'm interested. Start with you, okay? Number two, find our invisible ancestors. You know, slavery may have obscured their names and a lot of things, but find just one or two people. You don't know, you might be related to Frederick Douglass, right?
Right.
Who knows?
Possible.
Start to trace your ancestry, okay? And starting with the slaves. Starting with the slaves, yourself and then slavery. Okay, and the last thing is finding freedom. You know, when you know your ancestral history and you can bring it into your present, it frees you.
It does.
It frees
It
you.
does.
It does
Absolutely.
something for you. Even my aunts, a lot of aunts in my England that I didn't know, guess what? I had to go and ask my mom, and thank God she still has her mind intact.
Yeah.
And she starts to tell me and this and the cousins that I need them. We need our people.
Yes.
It doesn't matter who they are. We need them.
Right.
So, because it frees us. It gives us the freedom to know that if something happened, God forbid, yeah, we are a family here, but we also have a family of God's people that will never, ever be erased. God bless you, and you have a wonderful day. Amen?
Thank you, Kay Presley. And she's a member, Nan Pack, and chairwoman of our Intergeneration Committee. At this time, I'm going to go on to our featured panelists. And I would just ask that we stick to our subject. Our subject is September is National Preparedness Month, and it is Life Insurance Awareness Month. We would not have known what was going to happen on yesterday. It was unexpected. I was on my way to my coordinator class, which is in the Lower East Side. I got to 145th Street, could not get on the train. I got to 135th Street, could not take the train downtown. Got to 125th Street, could not take the train downtown. Then I found out I couldn't go across to the 1 train, so I took the 103 bus from Lexington Avenue. It took me, I left my house at 11:30, I got to my class at 3:30 p.m. So you know they did not allow me in the class, I had to reschedule. So we have someone here to speak to us when it comes to preparedness. Remember, we've had Hurricane Sandy where the water was coming through the parking lot right across the street here in Esplanade Gardens and other places where people have lost their homes. So we have Ed Powell here this afternoon, who's an independent preparedness coordinator from the Office of Emergency Management. Please give him your attention.
Okay, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to join you this afternoon. Again, my name is Ed Powell. I'm from New York City Emergency Management. It's a city agency. And just a little bit about New York City Emergency Management. Our agency helps New Yorkers before, during, and after emergencies happen. We coordinate all the other responding agencies. Whenever there's a big emergency in New York City, like yesterday, you'll see our people on the scene. They'll be wearing, in this kind of weather, they'll be wearing black jackets with New York City Emergency Management on the back. And they're there to see that all the other responding agencies, like the police department, fire department, Department of Buildings, sanitation, that all of those agencies are communicating with each other so as to provide the very best possible response. And my job is talking with New Yorkers like yourselves about how you can prepare yourself, your family, even your pets, for all kinds of emergencies. Anyone have a pet here? Yeah, what do you have?
Cat and a dog.
You have a cat and a dog. I got a cat and 2 guinea pigs.
Wow.
I have a 15-year-old daughter. When she turned 13, you know, she said, "Daddy, you know what I want for my birthday? A guinea pig."
Wow.
A guinea pig. Most kids want a cell phone or something, you know. So we go down to the pet store. She saw 2 that she wanted. She said, "Daddy, please, give me both of them. I promise I'll take care of them." You know who takes care of them, right?
Oh, no. Mrs. Phelps.
But yeah, I mentioned that for this reason. I can help you to prepare even your pets for emergencies. I brought along some booklets, and they're on the table in the back and near the entrance to the room. Please grab one on your way out. It's called My Emergency Plan. This booklet provides a way for you to prepare yourself and your family individually, a personalized plan just for you and your family, so that you're ready when emergencies happen. In fact, there's 3 steps and 3 parts of preparing for emergencies. 3 basic steps. Number 1, to make a plan. Have your plan in place before that emergency happens. You know, most folks wait until they're in the middle of an emergency, and then it's, oh my God, what am I going to do? Quite often it's too late then. So you want to have your plan laid out. Know what you're going to do, what you're going to avoid doing, who else needs to be involved, what kind of supplies or materials you need to have on hand. And, you know, when that emergency happens, you execute your plan. After you have rehearsed it, you know, don't hesitate to, you know, go over the plan. Go through it with your family. Walk through it so that when it happens, you just execute your plan and you'll be fine. Step number 2 to preparing for emergencies is gathering supplies. Getting those supplies on hand and keeping them there at the ready, those supplies that you're going to need to sustain yourself through that emergency. And I'll talk a little bit about that. Step number 3 is to get informed and stay informed. Keep up to date on what's going on, what's coming. You know, when you're at home watching TV, don't just watch Maury and Jerry, you know, and the stories. You know, check out the weather, check out the news, so you know what's coming along. Like I said, the booklet that's in the back, and I hope everyone grabs one. This booklet will provide a way for you to make a personalized plan just for your family. Part of everyone's plan should be creating what we call an emergency support network, and that's just a group of people who will keep in touch with you when emergencies happen. It can be only 2 people in your network, or it could be as many as you want, but a minimum of 2 folks who you can depend on to keep in touch with in an emergency. It can be people right here from National Action Network. You know, just exchange contact information, say, look, we're going to keep in touch with each other when emergencies happen. Because nobody should go through an emergency all alone. It can be people from your church, people, your neighbors, relatives, but a minimum of 2. Also, these individuals, at least one of them, should live close by. so that they have quick and easy access to you, should that ever become necessary. But one person in your support network should live far away in another state. And I know that doesn't make much sense, that somebody who might live in Chicago could be helpful to you in New York when you're having an emergency here. But yeah, that person could be a great help to you. And here's how. 20 years ago, there was a big power failure in New York City, and all the lights went out. Anybody remember that? Yes. All the power went off. Folks that lived in Brooklyn or in the Bronx had to walk across the bridge to get home. It was August 14th, 20 years ago. And you know why I remember that date so well? Why do I remember that date so well? Why do you think? It wasn't my birthday. It was my wedding day. And all the lights went out. Something else. Some people said it was an omen, but it was a good omen. Because we're still together, thank God.
That's good.
I mentioned that for this reason. When all the lights went out, all the power went off, in most areas of the city, it was very, very difficult to make a local phone call. If you wanted to call around one of the 5 boroughs, in most areas of the city, it was very difficult to get a call through. Some people had to wait and wait and wait for hours. So, if you have, say, Uncle Charles in Chicago, who agreed to be a part of your support network, if you have to make a long distance call, it got right through, just like always. So you call Uncle Charles. Uncle Charles, look, I can't reach anybody in the family in New York. I'm worried to death. I don't know if my mother is, I don't know where my kids are. You know, I'm really worried. But you can reach all of us and we can all reach you. So we need you to kind of coordinate communications for us. So this way, by way of Uncle Charles in Chicago, you can still remain in touch with people here in New York, although you can't reach them directly. That's why you need that out-of-town contact. The booklet provides a space for you to fill in the minimum number of contacts. You know, the contact information, the name, what relationship they are to you, their phone number, their email address, and also a space for you to fill in your out-of-town contact as well. Booklet provides a space, and I don't have a lot of time, so I can't go through the whole booklet, but please take one before you leave. Believe me, it could potentially save your life in a disaster. It has a space for you to fill in all your important health and medical information, like the medications that you take, what the daily dosage is, your allergies, your doctor's contact information, or pharmacist's contact information, your blood type, and much more. And then, once you fill this in, you make a photocopy of this and keep that photocopy with you all the time. The reason being that none of us knows what's going to happen in the future.
That's right.
Something could happen to you. And, you know, you could walk out of your house one day, step off the curb, twist your ankle, fall down, hit your head, go unconscious. Now, suppose, I'm allergic to penicillin. Suppose, is anybody else here? Yeah, a few people. Suppose you're allergic to penicillin. You're lying down the street, unconscious. Somebody sees you, they call 911, the ambulance comes. Now, they're trained to look for something like that on your person that will give them information about your health and medical condition. Now, you're lying there on the street unconscious. Now, they see you there, you got a little scrape on your head where you fell down, right away, we better give her a shot of penicillin. You're allergic. But they have no way of knowing that unless you have something on your person that will provide that information. Some people have the bracelets, the necklace thing that will, provide that information. I'm old-fashioned, I believe in pen and paper, so I suggest you have that photocopy of this information that you just filled in your booklet, your important health and medical information. So, they look and they find that in your pocket. You're unconscious, they find it in your pocket. And wait a minute, don't give her a shot of penicillin, she's allergic. We'll give her a different medication. So by having that information on you, you avoid getting and having an adverse reaction to a medication that you're allergic to. So it's so important that you follow those instructions. When you take the booklet, you'll see all this information inside. It also has information on meeting places. Sit down with your family now and choose a meeting place, someplace that you're going to meet up after a big emergency happens. People are very seldom all in the same place when an emergency happens. Somebody's at church, somebody's at school, somebody's over here at National Action Network, somebody's at the library. But if communication systems break down, like we just talked about, and you don't have the luxury of using your cell phone to reach your loved ones, you're going to be in bad shape because you're going to be worried. Where's my child? Where's my parents? Sit down now and plan. We're going to meet up over at National Action Network, or we're going to meet at the library, or at the church, or at my house. But choose a plan A and a plan B. Because if plan A is to meet at your house, and there's a big fire at your house, that's not going to work out so well. So you also have a plan B. Plan A at your house, plan B at the library down the street, or over here. This booklet also has information on communications, how you're going to communicate in an emergency. Your normal way of communication is going to be affected by various things like noise and general confusion and things like that when around an emergency scene. It also has information on transportation. So all that is part of your plan. And that's step number one to preparing for emergency. I'm quickly going to run through step number two, which is gathering supplies. Anybody here ever heard of a go bag? Anybody know what a go bag is? Okay. For folks who don't know, a go bag is a backpack or a small suitcase on wheels that you store emergency supplies in for a time when you might have to evacuate from your home. You might have to get out in a hurry. So you're going to need to have certain things stored away and just for that purpose, for when you have to evacuate. The booklet provides some suggestions for things that you should have in your go bag. Things like a first aid kit, personal items, toothpaste, toothbrush, washcloth, soap, some food, and I generally do this interactively, but I don't have much time today. One of the foods that we suggest that you put in your go bag is things like granola bars, lightweight but nutritious. I did this presentation in the Bronx at Senior Center, and I asked the question. I said, what are you going to put in your go bag? What kind of food are you going to put in your go bag? But one lady was jumping up and down. She said, call me, I know what kind. So I said, okay, what kind of food are you going to put in your go bag? So she said, I'm going to put a pot of collard greens in mine. notice it that you do that. Don't do that. Lightweight foods and nutritious foods. Like if you're not allergic to nuts, you can put some nuts in there. Dried fruit, like prunes, raisins, dates. But always, always check expiration dates. And eat that food or whatever, or water or whatever it is, and then replace it before the expiration date. You're gonna put some water in there, small bottles of water, not a big jug, you might be carrying that. A flashlight with extra batteries. Here's what I do with my flashlight. I take the batteries out and take them to the outside of the flashlight. Because if they're left in the flashlight over a long period of time, they could corrode or discharge. And then it's of no use to you when you need it. A small radio. Back in my day, we used to call them transistor radios. Now kids don't know what you're talking about if you say a transistor. COVID is still with us to some extent, so put in some face masks, some gloves, some hand sanitizer. Take a little of your medicine, not all of your medicine, but some of your medicine, put it into a plastic Ziploc bag, put that in your go bag. Your important papers and ID, make copies, and put those copies in a plastic Ziploc bag, again, keep it dry, put that in your go bag. And here's something important. These are only suggestions. Put in your go bag what you want to have in your go bag. Nobody knows better than you what you want to have with you if you have to get out of your home in a hurry. Everyone in your home needs to have their own go bag. And the best place to keep it, where do you think the best place to keep your go bag is?
By the door.
By the door. By the exit door. Because when that emergency happens, you don't want to be running around, where did I put that thing? You know? It's by the exit door, so on the way out, you're going to grab it and keep it moving. There will be times when instead of evacuating from your home, the authorities might say, remain in your home for an unspecified period of time. Remember we had the wildfires in Canada and the smoke condition here, and the authorities advised people to stay inside. Well, it could be more severe than that. You might have to remain inside. So store enough supplies in your home to last you for 7 days or more, but at least 7 days. And that's going to include some of the things that you have in your go bag, but in larger quantities, like the water, for example. In your go bag, you're just going to put a few small bottles of water, but here, you're going to store this in your cabinet, your cupboard, in your closet, just for a time when you might be sequestered in your home and unable to go out to the store to go shopping or anything. There's a formula for the amount of water that you should store in your home, that you should keep in your home for emergencies. Anybody want to take a shot at that? How much water are you going to keep in your home for emergencies?
4 bottles?
4 bottles? Okay, anybody else?
5 gallons.
5 gallons, okay. Remember, it's a formula. So I'm going to tell you the answer. It's 1 gallon per person per day. So we're talking about 7 days. So if you live alone, that's 7 gallons of water. If there are 2 people in your family, it's 14, 3 people, 21, and so forth and so on. Okay, the booklet has also some suggestions for your stay-at-home kit. So, I'm gonna stop in just a moment. I know I've gone beyond my time, but the third step to preparing for emergencies. The third step for preparing for emergencies is getting informed and staying informed. The booklet that you're going to get on the table in the back has some green and white pages. Those pages contain resources that are going to help you before, during, and after an emergency. And like I said, when you're watching TV, don't just watch Jerry and Maury and the stories.
Right.
Watch the weather, watch the news. Okay, I'm going to wrap up. I don't know, I don't think we can take questions at this point. I think there's a specified time for questions later in the program. So let me just thank everyone for being attentive and being patient. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for your presentation, and if you can stay around, we will have a section for question and answer. And we thank Stacy Bell, President of the African American Historical and Genealogical Society, Jean Sampson Scott, Greater New York Chapter, who was here on last Saturday, who will be coming back to do a presentation for us. I'm looking at maybe next March for referring you on this afternoon. My person, Ms. Ponce from the CERT team, she moved to Yonkers and she said she was no longer with the team. So I thank you so much for joining us on this afternoon. And what we're going to do, we're going to do our emergency preparedness speakers, and then we're going to go on to our insurance speakers. So our own member of the National Action Network Political Action Committee, Evelyn Terry Coleman, was born and grew up in the Bronx, New York. Affirmative action afforded her the opportunity to attend Fordham University, a private Catholic university, in 1971. During that time, Black people were not even allowed to teach full-time in New York City Board of Education in significant numbers. E. Terry Coleman earned a bachelor's degree in history from Fordham University in 1975. She continued her education at City College, CCNY, where she earned 2 master's degrees in education, one in early childhood education and the other in special education for emotionally handicapped. She taught emotionally handicapped New York City high school youth for over 22 years before retiring early from New York City Department of Education in 2015. On January 15, 2023, MLK Day, she was ordained associate pastor at Positive Proof Ministries under Bishop Frank Garris. She currently is a licensed health insurance agent and AmeriPlan representative of discounted health and dental plans for those who are without any health insurance coverage or merely looking for less expensive coverage. Please give your attention to our member, Evelyn Terry Coleman.
Pleasure to be here and be afforded this opportunity. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here and to be afforded the opportunity to come before you to speak about emergency preparedness. I want to go over the actual definition of the word so you know exactly what we're talking about. Emergency is a sudden, unexpected outcome, where a sudden, unexpected event or occurrence, where an immediate response is required. Now, we've heard a few people talking about emergency preparedness, and a lot of times we don't consider that an emergency can occur at any time and anywhere. So the fact that different people over here speaking about it is very important because we hear it and then we tend to just put it to the back. The booklet that is presented here gives you a detailed way of how you can prepare for these unexpected events. Now, I spent a lot of time looking at disaster movies on TV, and it really gives you an idea of how people are affected by these things and how people are caught off guard. Now, recently we had floods in Brooklyn, and when you think about flooding that occurs unexpected, people are sometimes trapped in their houses, they're trapped in their cars. So prepare means you are thinking about something in advance. So you will be prepared for something in advance. An emergency is something that occurs without you thinking about it. So if you prepare for emergency, then if an emergency occurs, then you have a plan, some type of plan. For example, the flooding that is occurring around the city, if a person's house has a flooding issue that occurs because the streets are flooded for some reason and the water is up to your waist, and you go outside to your car and the car is engulfed with water, how do you get out? I mean, recently, people have died in their homes because the water came in and they were unable to get out. People have died in their cars because they were unable to get out. So if you are conscious of these type of unexpected things that occur, you know, you can just sit around and think, well, what would I do if these things occur? Okay, if you were in your car, what could you have in your car that will enable you to get out your car? You know, if you're in your house, what if there was a flooding? What would you do to get out your house if the flooding occurred and the water is pressing against the door and you can't open the door? Okay, preparedness is something, it gives you the opportunity to think of the what if. Okay, and the thing is that because there's so many people talking about emergency preparedness, it really gives you different perspectives of what you can do and what needs to be done that you normally would not think about. And emergency preparedness is for the month of September in New York City because it is such a huge issue. We're living in a world where we watch the news and we see that flooding is occurring all around the world. It's not only in New York City, it's all around the world. In Libya, we had over 20,000 people that died because of the flooding. Hurricanes are occurring all around, and now we have a situation where climate is causing disasters. So you actually need an emergency preparedness plan for climate, because last summer we had more people that arrived to the ER area because of heat-related issues. You know, so we're now evolving into different things that we prepare. In other parts of the country, California, people are experiencing extreme cold. How do you prepare if you're living in an area that is normally 90 degrees and all of a sudden the temperature drops down to 20? You normally wouldn't have blankets. You know, you normally wouldn't have heat. Okay, so emergency preparedness means you have to start thinking out of the box. What would I do if such and such things occur? Now, because many people have come before me, and everything he did an excellent job talking about emergency preparedness. So a few of these things I don't have to go through. So it affords me the opportunity to talk about the company that I'm now developing based on a vision, and now it has become a mission. And this is Disaster Relief Alliance. Disaster Relief Alliance is an organization that purpose is to create a situation where you have an alliance with government, state, local, churches, and other organizations that if a major disaster occurs, and like a hurricane or flooding or whatever in different parts of the country, that the alliance will be a set up of different people, organizations, and companies, that they will band together and have a network where they will communicate with each other and join in assisting the people who are affected by the disaster. Now, assisting each organization or company is responsible for doing different things. When disasters hit an area, FEMA, which we normally think that when the government gives millions of dollars to disaster areas where FEMA comes in, we think that, well, the people are being taken care of because the government has given $1 million or so. Well, one thing that we have to realize is that when FEMA comes into an area, it gives assistance to home owners who have insurance. Now, in our community, you know, because of various reasons, our people don't have the resources, so you may have a house, but you don't have insurance. So if a hurricane or a tornado comes and destroys your house, what do you do? What type of resources are available, and how can we assist you? So the Disaster Relief Alliance will be a network that will be created in which vendors will be able to ensure that people in our underserved communities get the assistance on whatever level that's available in the community, that they will be able to get the assistance, and we'll monitor when the assistance came, how much was given, and why they didn't get the assistance. So it's actually the need to have a resource system in which we can help our home. Because as we know, when the resources come down, the people in our community have a tendency not to get what we are supposed to get. So we need a system of our own where we can ensure that the people, when these disasters hit, that the people will get what they're supposed to get. And if they don't get it, we will be a resource to ensure that they get it. Okay, so we're looking for people who are interested. We're looking for people who are interested in becoming a part of Disaster Relief Alliance because it encompasses individuals, churches. We're trying to find a way that we can get the churches to get on board because the churches are immediately in the community. They have the opportunity to provide a shelter for people when disasters hit. They do something as simple as a place for people to charge up their phones. You know, every aspect of what is necessary when disaster hits is what this organization is trying to develop into. We need to be able to protect our homes because we know no one is going to protect us unless we protect ourselves. So we have to consider our needs and we have to decide how we're going to take care of our areas when disaster hits. We want to also ensure that when disaster hits, that when they come in and decide to rebuild that area, that when they rebuild it, they don't build us out. So this is something that with the network, with the Alliance network, the companies, the individuals, the churches that come in will all have responsibility of contributing whatever they can contribute, whether it's time or space or just volunteering to help move something from the left to the right or blankets, whatever. But we need to have a network set up so that when these things happen in New York or whether it's in Florida or wherever, that we have a system that we can join in to help each other so that Katrina will never happen to us again. So thank you for your time, and if anyone's interested, please contact me. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, and you see we have individuals right here in-house when we have disasters that strike. We'll be ready 1, 2, 3. At this time, I would like to see if Crystal McKay, New York Life Insurance Agency, is she in the house? Okay, we're going to go on now to the twins that are always here with us almost each and every Saturday, Miriam and Marlene Lorien, Raymond Castro, Primerica, regional leaders. We educate families on how life insurance is important. So now we're going to go on into our It's Life Insurance Awareness Month segment.
Thank you so much for coming, and we want to thank God, and we want to thank Chaplain for this opportunity to give us to be here, and we thank all the panelists who are here with us, and so far we have a lot of information. We represent Primerica. My sister and I, we've been in Primerica about 6 years, and Wade Castro, we are regional leaders, and Raymond Castro is Vice President in Primerica, and he's the one who's going to introduce you and talk to you about the importance of life insurance. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. How's everybody doing? Good? I want to start off by thanking National Action Network. I'll tell you, life insurance shouldn't just be about Life Insurance Awareness Month in September, right? I think it's something that should be discussed openly, and it's unfortunate that there's a stigma to life insurance, right? So let's start there. It's unfortunate that in the communities, I've heard things such as the following. Yeah, if I get life insurance, my wife is going to kill me, right? If I get life insurance, my mother's going to kill me. I can't tell the kids that I have life insurance, and it all sounds fun and good. These are things that I hear constantly, right? And no worries. And I'll start with a sad stat, right? I don't have the exact number, but if we look across the United States, there's hundreds of millions of dollars of unclaimed life insurance death benefits. Why? Because the conversation was never had, hey, we have a life insurance policy. right? So even though the joke is commonly said that if I get it, it's going to bring on death, the reality is there are people that are taking the step to be protected, but because of lack of communication, these funds are just held. And the reality is that it's not claimed, guess who keeps it? The insurance companies, right? So when you think about life insurance, one thing that Primerica does is we educate families on building your financial house. That's the concept. And if we just figure out the foundation, the basis of your financial house is life insurance. Now, let's address that in a few points as to why that should be the foundation of your financial house. Well, first of all, let's think of the following. If you think of life insurance, right, think of replacing your income replacement. So there's a lot of different figures out there. If you go online and you Google search, TikTok, whatever you choose to be your medium of information, right? But let's stick to professionals, right? We have individuals here that are licensed today that can actually demystify this for you. If you keep it simple, on average, if you have anyone, and when I say anyone, it's not just a child, anyone who depends off of you financially, that could be a sibling, it could be a niece, it could be somebody that you take care of financially, you should have at least 10 times your income in coverage. So we'll use a very simple example. If I earn $30,000 a year, that means I should have at least $300,000 of coverage. Now you might say, well, that's a lot of money, but let's think about something. Think about the current climate today and think about inflation. And people throw out the word inflation a lot, but what's inflation? It's very simple. Me and my wife, 2 years ago, when I would go food shopping, $100 would bring me back 4 bags of groceries, right? Today, that same $100 gets me 2 bags of groceries, right? We're not eating any more. We're not anything else to it. So with inflation, if you think of, if I'm leaving somebody a $300,000 life insurance policy, depending on when that person passes away, with the cost of inflation, that $300,000 might be $150,000 or $200,000, right? So the first concept is replacing somebody's income. The next thing to keep in mind is we talk a lot about generational wealth and change generations. This is my personal opinion. I'm not speaking Primerica's opinion, this is my personal opinion. One way to change generations is through education, right? If we don't educate our youth and then teach them how to take that into action, we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot. So if I have, let's say, 3 children and I pass away, let's say they don't have the resources of scholarships. Let's say they can't get financial aid for whatever reason. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that life insurance could fund their college. That's thinking ahead. Does that make sense? So college education. The next thing, again, that we don't talk about enough in the families is the concept of debt, right? There's so much back and forth as to what the other spouse can or will not be responsible for if somebody passes away with debt. The reality is today, the way the economy is, these credit card companies and loan institutions are getting savvier in the way they go after people for debt, right? Whether you pass or not, they're going to want those obligations taken care of. So why leave a loved one a financial responsibility because of lack of poor planning, right? Another topic that it infuriates me, when you consider GoFundMe, right?
Yeah.
GoFundMe initially, the purpose behind GoFundMe, the idea was if, let's say, I have a brother in the community, he has his house burned down, right? We're in the community to maybe help put that house back together, maybe relocate him, things of that nature. But it's come to the point where now people feel that GoFundMe is life insurance. And it's sad, and you know what even makes me sad, I don't want to say it makes me angry, it makes me sad is, if I go on social media, that's the way I connect a lot of my family across the country, is that it's almost like they're proud of it. I'll tell you today, with all the access to information we have today, you should be embarrassed if you use GoFundMe as a means to bury a loved one. Now, am I knocking it? It's there, right? So if I have to bury somebody, I'm going to use whatever resource possible. But I think that today there's enough information out there. There's enough licensed individuals out there that educate you about the proper way to have somebody buried. And I'm not talking about a fancy burial, right? It all depends what your goal is. But if my goal, if my dad says, you know what, Ray, I want to be cremated. If that's his choice, it's very different than I have to cremate my dad because I can't afford to bury him. You get what I'm saying from that perspective. And then in closing, the idea here is life insurance is very personalized and it's not cookie cutter. The reality is, it's something that, you know, we sit down with families, see where they're at financially, and that's just kind of a foundation. Where we build up from that, you know, we also educate families on proper retirement planning. We mentioned kind of over the top the idea of college planning, if that's something important to you. And then also just kind of planning for the future, making sure that you have the correct investments in place to plan for that. So Marlene and Miriam are going to stay afterwards to cover the Q&A part. We have some information in the back to discuss it. And again, the idea here is it's personalized, right? It's not a one-size-fits-all. And I think more often than not, we meet you where you're at, and it's not just about throwing a number out there that we feel might be the best for you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for the information. And I'm now going to move on to Alman P. Santos. He's a senior life insurance agent, field underwriter, consultant, who's probably been with us on all our programs, whether we were on Zoom, in person. So I really appreciate you coming out with us today.
How you doing today? All right. I'm just going to piggyback on my colleague here that comes down to the insurance factor. It's very true. It's not anybody's, responsibility to bury anyone in your family. Just like GoFundMe, or you got to call family members. It's true. The insurance industry has policies for children start $3-4. They for adults. A senior who's 60 can get a policy for $35 for $10,000, depending on what health he or she is in. It depends clearly on what your criteria is. Now, depending on a lot of the insurance companies, if you're over 50 years old, they don't even care if you got diabetes or heart problems, take 3 or 4 medications, because you're over that age where they understand that's going to happen. You're not young. You're not going to take young forever. So what happens with the insurance is, all the companies, they're going to give you a product. And some have more products than the others. Some specialize in one, some specialize in multiple of them. And the process of doing that, they're weeding out who needs what. Just like the gentleman said. It's a criteria for all of us. Now we can start as low as children. A child 0 to 18. You can start a policy for a child 0 to 18, 4 or 5 of them, and end up spending $15, $25 for each child at that same price. That price is never going to go up. You start at a child policy, and you let the child keep it. Then they get to a certain age, then what you do is you change the policy over to adult policy. So now the adult policy now, when it's $3, now they come without no insurability, no questions asked. Now that $25 go to $50. And now it's only going to cost them $15 a month. Now they can take care of themselves. You shouldn't take care of your children's policy to a point when they're grown unless they're just irresponsible. If that is the case, then somewhere down the line, you should draw and say, listen, if you do something wrong, I'm not going to be responsible. I'm going to give it to you. I have 3 sons. They got policies worth well over $250. They don't know it. I know it. They ask me for money, I go get the money from the policy. Daddy, need $5,000. I get it from the policy. Where the money come from your policy? I'm not going to take it. If I give it to you, you're going to utilize it. Don't put nothing back. There's going to be nothing there for you when you do get sick. And in the process of those policies, you set them up for their children, their wives, whatever's going to happen in the future. The future is set up for you. So you say, when you have the children, you have the children as guidance. When you get a wife, you add on to the issue. And you continue to do certain things like that to help your cause. Now, in the financial sector of all this, like you said, it's all going to be a certain price. No one's going to be able to afford what they want to afford. Some people want more than they really can afford. I hear my clients say sometimes, Mr. Santos, I want $500 off my insurance, but they don't have the money for it. And I say, why do you need $500? Somebody on the TV, or somebody on the radio, or somebody on the internet tell them they can get $500 for $39. No such thing as this. Now, you go read the fine print, you're not going to see anything. When you get there, that $39 is going to become $100 and something. And depending on what it is, it may only stay for that price for the first 7 years, 10 years. After that, the price goes up and continues to go up. And to the maturity date, it does the same thing all the time. Very few policies are locked in. And the ones are locked in, those are the safe ones, but they still have their disadvantages. So read the fine print when you're going to buy anything. Make sure you understand what you're purchasing and how does it help you now, the first 10 years, the first 20 years, the first 30 years. When you hit a certain age, you may not even need the policy because the policy may have outlived itself. Give you an example. You got a home. You got a 15-year mortgage. Your mortgage is $100,000. You took out a $100,000 policy. That was a backup just in case anyone passed away in that 15 years only. After the 15 years, if the house is paid for, do you still need a $100,000 policy? Because now the price is going to go up after 15 years. So now, whatever that price was, it's double the triple. So can you afford to keep that $100,000 policy at that point? And are you in the same health condition when you go back and try to redo it? Because depending on what it is, they won't redo it. It goes by health. They tell you in your policy, always maturely, they tell you when you come back in, at the date to come back in, if your health changed, then the policy would not be due. It's just how the system works. They're not going to insure somebody who has 10 different illnesses after they came in on healthiness. Now you want me to renew a $100,000 policy. Now you got heart problems and all these other things. They're not going to do it for you. So I would tell everybody, if you have a policy at this time and you had it for more than 10 years, you need to go back over it. You need to look at it. You need to see that it still works for you. It's not change it out and get something else. Because some people I have running around talking about they got insurance, they got accidental life insurance. They don't even realize it's accidental life. Some of them have sold them life insurance for accident only. Now when they go back and they go try, they say, oh no, this is only for accident. Well, the lady didn't tell me that. See, that's why you got to read over your documents after so many years. Because when you get to a certain age and anything goes wrong, the insurance company is not going to come back and say, it's our fault. You had the policy for 10 years. You knew the policy was good for 20. You did not renew the policy. You didn't convert the policy within the time to convert the policy out. Now you say they're not going to do the policy. It's just not how they work. They'd rather make money than sit there and let you. That's why they won't cover an ill person if they already passed a certain stage. If anybody has any questions, I'll be here to speak. Questioning, and I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so much for your presentation, and now we're saving the best for last. Crystal McKay, New York Life Insurance Agency. She was also referred to by Stacy Bell. So I thank you so much for joining us on this evening, and please welcome Stacy Bell to the panel.
Hello everyone, my name is Crystal McKay. I'm actually a former agent with New York Life. I'm making a transition into Medicare because it's very, the reason why I became an insurance agent is because I experienced the downside of not having insurance. At age 16, I lost my mom, so things were very hard for me and my siblings. And when I was 25, my daughter and I, we lost our father. And nobody thinks at age 25 that they need insurance. And I find that the most challenging that I have as a life insurance agent is getting my community to understand that life insurance is an asset and not an expense. And to really get parents, grandparents to understand that it's better to get a policy for your children while they're young to lock in their insurability, to lock in the rate. And like he was speaking, if you have like some sickness, you can be denied. But if you get insurance for a child, no matter what happens to them, they will always be able to get insurance. So that's what I have to say. And if
because what you said, I have an experience. You know, I lost my son last year, and I'm an agent. I'm working with public. That means I have life insurance for him. When that happened, I was able to take care of whatever I have to take care. That means when they are young, they are healthy, and it's the time you have to get life insurance for them. in case something happens. We don't know.
And with the difference between whole life and term policies, with the whole life policy, it builds cash value. And when I speak on it being an asset, you can use that cash value in a whole life policy as collateral. So, this is something to think about.
Okay, what we're gonna do now, we have light refreshments to the right and the back. You're welcome to partake. We're gonna ask Mr. Francis to please come up because we're gonna now do question and answer. We've got, I would say for about 15 minutes, we'll do question and answer. And I will be in the back at the table.
Please, everyone, please, if you have any questions, please, madam. Well, life insurance is very important. This is that generational wealth is generated when the oldest members of your family is insured and the insurance is passed on to survivors. This child is generated two older elders are insured, and when they join the ancestors, the policy benefits are passed on and goes straight down the line. We study history of capitalism in the United States of North America. This is why it's so important to trace your family tree, to find out your generational history. You'd be surprised if you find when you trace it. And this is why it's so important to get your family together and map out this so you don't have to pass no hat around. And so talking about building equity, that's basically what it's all about. That's why education is so important. So we actually be surprised. You can take your tree back in 1865. Records, some folks have been able to take the tree back to 1810, 1780. Excuse me a minute. I apologize for going on in your ear this particular matter. Question, ma'am?
Yeah, if you have adult grandchildren that you know are just tossing their money around and not saving and not trying to have insurance, I'll ask them and they'll say, oh, then I'm going to have insurance, oh, I'll get it at some point or another. How do you, I know I can't take out insurance on another adult. Oh. So, just call you guys then?
Okay. You can take out any, you got adult children?
Yeah, I got adult grandchildren.
Grandchildren, adopted children, grown children, irresponsible children. If you have them, don't be afraid to go take out a $7,000.
I was told that only the adult person can take out their own insurance.
No, that's not true. That's not true. You're the owner, they insure.
Yeah, you're the owner.
And
So they have to sign that?
They have to sign, but listen, I'll give you an example. This
Is that a
how
mic
lot
for
of
her?
clients take insurance for their children. Ask your children for money. Say you need money for something. When they give you the money, you open up a policy. Make sure you get it for a year. So do something smart like say, all right, I'm gonna get a $10,000 policy on this young child who's irresponsible. This is $20-something a month. Son, I need $200. He's gonna give you the $200. You're gonna take the $200. You're gonna take that money and pay the insurance. And every time you come in, son, I need another $200. Every time you get the money, you're just gonna keep paying his policy. If he asks next what happened, you're gonna be right at the
And
funeral
he
home.
has to somehow sign?
He can sign. You, most of the time, they'll sign because you're just the mother. You ask them to sign.
I'm the grandmother, right?
With grandmother, they won't sign for you. When you hold that policy, and when that time happens, you go, well, I had you covered. That's what you do. I had you covered. Don't let my slick, if they will never get no insurance.
Oh,
They'll get a car and they go off
that
and get insurance.
Yeah, that's what happened to me. When my
They're not gonna have to give
son, when
insurance.
my son passed away last year, I had life insurance for him.
Oh,
Well, that's me.
so
That's
sorry
all.
for your
Yeah.
loss.
My question is,
the abundance of TV ads geared towards seniors for life insurance. That seems to be too good to be true.
yeah, the one on TV, that's why we want people to sit down like face to face. If you have questions, and they can insure you. Because on TV, you don't know them. They just give the advertise. But when you sit down with somebody like me, like them, they can answer those questions. But you don't understand, they're going to answer you, and then they're going to do a quick Q&A with you to see how much life insurance you will need for individual or for your family.
So those commercials should be ignored.
This is what it is. Read the fine print. If you ever look at any commercial, most of them got to show you the fine print what that really means. If they're not telling the truth, the fine print will show it. See, that's why it's so small when they're talking to you, but in big letters when they're showing you what you're going to get from when you look at the bottom, everybody's right from it. Because that's the truth. It's telling you, give you an example, Colonial Bank. You can get this for this price, $9.99 for $10,000 insurance. But they don't tell you that's per unit. And it goes by your age. That means if you're 80 years old, that's not $9 per unit. That may be $30, that may be $27 per unit. So how much of that can you afford? And most of the time, with these companies, they're not going to tell you the truth until you sign the signature. So you have to read it, look at it, analyze it before you put your hand copy on that and ask the question. Is this something I need now or just temporary? So a lot of things are temporary. When you buy a house insurance, it's temporary, just as long as you own that house. As soon as you leave, you're not going to take that insurance with you to the next house. You're going to let that go.
The mic to her mouth. Can't hear her. Put the mic to her mouth.
Look into the insurance company, do your own due diligence. Find a company that fits what you're looking for. If you need a company, just look for the company that will give you what you need. You got companies out there get guaranteed issues, no questions asked. Like Burger, no questions, give you what you want. You can have 10 different things on, they'll sign you, it's guaranteed. It's guaranteed. That's how it works. Now, if you're good, this is our company all the time. You don't always have to take a guaranteed issue policy. Because like I explained earlier, if you're a certain age, they do not mind if you have high blood pressure, hypertension, diabetes, maybe a heart attack, but it's been past a certain amount of years. It all goes by criteria. So you can get a regular policy instead of paying more for a guarantee by just reading where you qualify. Because everything has a stipulation of 10 years and better. It's always 10 years and better. If you had a heart attack 10 years ago, this is 11th year, that does not matter about the 10 years ago. This is the 11th year. That's a regular policy. You don't have to wait around for your money to, for that policy. Look into it and read it, make sure you always get a brochure. They tell you right there. You do your own, as long as you read what you're looking at, you're going to always be able to decipher what you actually want to pay for and what you don't really read out. A lot of people just giving you something.
It all depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for maybe final expense insurance, just to cover your funeral costs, then they have a program for that. But I know that New York Life, the oldest they'll go is till 70. So you have to look for insurance companies that'll fit your criteria.
I got them to 90 years old. I actually have them up to 90 years old. I'm broke. So I didn't look right there. I deal with over 100 companies. And they're now all in New York City. They down south, they're in Virginia, they're in PA, they wherever they need to be. My thought is wherever you live at, you have to find a company that fits you. Because, I give you an example, Columbia Mutual. Columbia Mutual was signing you at 85. They don't care about the heart attacks. They don't care about no diabetes. They don't care about all that. Now, if you went to Colonial Bank or a lot of them different ones, they may say something about how long she's been taking this, or how long she's been taking pills. And they may make it a graded policy because they may go by 5 years. Somebody else may go by 10 years. You have to see which one criteria. You're welcome.
Hi, I'd like to know if you,
we can take
The mic on?
it.
because I'm a victim of fraud with life insurance of my family. And I did a study, and insurance was before the police. So before the insurance began, and that's how the police evolved. Because people that had money, and there was a lot of, robberies and stuff, they started insurance so they would be protected of a loss. And then from that, that's what evolved into police. And it might even be dependent. So my question is, I noticed that I'm a victim of fraud. And it's very, very scary because $60 million was robbed from me, and I was impersonated in a court to make pay for TV. So my question is, the security is being broken right now, and I learned that I used to go door to door, knock on people's homes, and sell Prime America and this insurance. And it was like rackets. So my question is, when you were employed, like I worked for a couple of different companies, and with your pay, you could put in where you get funeral expenses, God forbid. Because this organization is National Action Network, everything is about God and having faith, and it seems like we're not really wanting to live forever, which we could. It's all about attitude. So if you have insurance, and no one is helping me, and I'm going to give you an example of how they can steal. My question is, how do you protect Metropolitan Life? Who works for Metropolitan Life? Somebody here works for Metropolitan Life, right?
Ma'am, can I tell you something?
My question is, how do you protect, if you have an insurance policy and somebody robs it impersonating you, who helps you? I'm suing State Farm Insurance right now, and there's no law.
All right, listen to me. Listen, insurance companies are corporations. We understand that. And personally, first off, insurance policies were actually started by slave owners. They're to protect their slave. That's what the first policy was actually. That is the truth. But beyond that, if someone impersonates your identity theft, if this is what we're talking about, someone
Yeah, but
uses...
wait, let me tell you,
Ma'am,
Matthew in the Bible, Matthew 21, slave owner, wait, let me finish. Slaves were people who didn't pay back their money.
So, let me just say this. Excuse me, Jonathan. These are our guests. No. These are our, let me finish. These are our guests here at the National Action Network. And what we will definitely do at the House of Justice, that we always do, is we have respect for all of our people on the podium. So your question has ended. We will speak to you afterwards. Thank you so much. We will do it at the end. Thank you, Jonathan. Please have a seat. Thank you, Jonathan.
I'm robbed. I don't want anybody to get robbed.
Wow. All right, what I was trying to explain to the lady there, the insurance company is a corporation. If you have a problem with the insurance company, you can go after their license. You can basically put them out of business if you want to. But you basically gotta put a class action lawsuit against them if you really want to. So this is not something, we're just representatives of the company.
Right.
I'm 27 years in this business. Believe, I've seen it all.
Right.
And I've seen older people who've been in this business here retire out who've been here 60. At the end of the day, the system is set up a certain way.
Right.
And it has nothing to do with you or I. The people at the top controls it. They pay money to Congress and all these other people to get their laws through to protect them, and these type of situations happen. Now, people like myself and anybody here knows what the E&O is. That's average and omission. We go do something wrong to you, you can sue us.
Right.
And the average omission protects us from not going to jail, because that's like $5–10 million we giving you in insurance company off the hook. But then you can come up as criminally, and we did something to you. The insurance companies have protected you. Now, I don't understand that it's us. They know who to talk to say them if anything goes wrong. Now, if you want to sue them, you have a right to go after them, but I will tell you, if class action lawsuit, that's no issue with them. We're not it.
Postal insurance.
We don't have that authority. We don't have that authority. But that's, you gotta go after them.
I'll talk to you later.
We have, please, no follow-up questions. We have other people who have questions.
Okay, that's a hard act to follow. Okay, I just have a question or two. From what I see there, I believe I see two different insurance companies.
Yes.
The lady in the middle from New York Life, and you represent Primerica. Yeah, okay, you represent Primerica. Who is Primerica's underwriter? That's, yeah, to my knowledge, Primerica's underwriter is Massachusetts Life Indemnity. Do either of you other two know that? Do you know that? Who Primerica's underwriter is?
We are field trainers. We are field.
Use the mic. See that?
Who? I beg your pardon, sir?
What you said? Primerica is a big company. It's a financial services company. When we do life insurance, we are under Primerica. We represent.
Okay, so, what you're telling me is that Primerica writes the insurance policy?
We are the field writers, right?
You're the writer?
Yes.
Yeah, but who's your underwriter? It has to be an insurance company that issues the insurance policy and pay out on the insurance policy.
Yeah.
I believe it's Massachusetts Life Indemnity. That's who it used to be. And there was a gentleman named Art Williams, A.L. Williams, who made millions of dollars selling Primerica insurance. Okay, I go back with this for 30 years. I also know that the lady in the middle works for New York Life. You offer 3 different types of policies, which is universal, whole life, and term. So now Primerica came along and replaced people's whole life policies with term life policies. Okay. And but I'm not going to, drag y'all through the mud and the woods. But I just, okay, I just want you to know somebody got to know what they're talking about and know what they know. But my main concern was, does Massachusetts Life and Indemnity is still the underwriter for Primerica? That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
We're waiting for an answer. And I thank the audience for their participation. But consider this, though. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the panel. Thank you so much, sweetheart. I was a little concerned because me being the youngest of my family members, I have life insurance. However, my family members, they don't, because they were so used to, having fun and everything. So that's something that they forgot. What can I do in order to, is it possible that I can get insurance for them?
Yes.
You can get insurance policy for your brother, your sister, your niece, your grandmother, your father, your mother. You can, if you're willing to pay for it, you'll be the owner and they'll be the insured.
So which one will be the best one? Which insurance would be the best?
Well, it all depends. Insurance is based on age and health.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's the bottom line.
I thank the audience for the
One question.
Any further questions?
I have one question. One question.
Oh, about that's it.
Hello and good afternoon, and I want to thank this wonderful panel for presenting.
together a go bag, and it was too heavy. I had everything but the kitchen sink. I had peanuts. I had the non-perishable items. I did try to put some water in there. I had medicine. I put all kinds of things in there that was on the list. But if something of an emergency nature were to happen, I would be dragging and probably waffled down by the fire because of me dragging a very heavy bag. Is there a sample bag somewhere that maybe I can take a look at and then be guided by in terms of preparing a go bag?
Very interesting question.
Thank you so much for your question.
She needs the book.
If you have the booklet,
Oh, she gotta get one.
on page 13, you'll see some sample ideas of what you can put into you should put into your go bag. This hopefully will not make it too heavy for you, but another option to having the backpack is using the small suitcase on wheels that you can pull along and you won't have to carry it. You know? That answer your question, okay?
I think maybe I should leave the batteries out.
You're quite welcome.
Thank you, Althea, for your question and for stepping up and serving us on this afternoon. Are there any more questions? I see one more. We'll take one more question. And one last question from Brenda Ricketts. Ma'am, go on with your question.
Okay, I want to know, do you actually need any type of permission from anyone if you're going to take a life insurance?
Yes, you do.
You're going to need it.
You can't sign nobody's paper. What you can do is ask them, you're going to put a policy, you're going to put a policy. Yeah, you can insure anyone, but they have to sign the paperwork. You can't sign the paperwork because that's forgery. And even if their policy goes through and they find out that signature was forged, then you're going to be paying back the money and it's going to become a criminal case. It's actually as simple to get people to sign paperwork. No, I'll tell you, I got tricks for this game. You got an irresponsible son, he don't like doing nothing, you constantly give him money, tell him when he owes you money to promise everything. When he comes to you, he's going to sign, say, I need you to sign right here, say you owe me right here, no right there, you got a signature. You got to trick people sometimes to make them responsible. Especially with kids who care about sneakers and everything else, but nothing else. You have to understand, they're not going to ever get up and get responsible until they get thrown out on the street. And they got to go to the state or whatever they got to do. But as far as you, if you're a parent, listen, a $10,000 policy on your child, if they're young, you can get 10, 15, 20, $50,000. A child 25 years old can get a universal life policy for $25 a month, and it goes to the age of 121. They can't outlive it, and it continues to make money for them. And you can control it because you are, and then you want to give it to your kid, and like I say, those policies like that, you can add the child once you get a grandchild, add the grandchild. He gets married, add the wife on. All you have to do is tweak it as you go through your years. And anybody you're talking to,
If you're doing it when they're young and then
you got to start them off early.
Yeah.
And even if you got one now, you got a 40-year-old child right now who's just out here don't want to listen to you.
Yeah, he don't listen.
Listen, get him
He don't.
have him sign his signature to a policy, so if anything go wrong, he's coming. That's it.
Do you have a morality test? Do you know about that, a morality test? When do you give one? Could you answer that question? Please?
Well, we got one last question. Well, I have a question also. Interest, I found an insurance policy taken out my name when I was born in 49. And I cashed it a couple of years ago. I came across it while going through family possession. Well, you talk about the youngster signed off. How much time I just came out with
No. 14 and under, can't sign their name.
Okay.
14 and over can sign their name. That's what that is, 14 over. If you have a child who's 14 and over,
Yes.
he or she has enough knowledge to know what they're signing. Now, you are the adult, they will have to sign it. Now, again, you have the time, you can get that policy back. I mean, at some point in the game here, you should not hold the policy for your children to the day you die. When you get to a certain point, if they're not responsible enough, just give it to them. Anything happens after that, it's not your fault. You gave it to them, they chose to waste it, cash it in, do what they want to do with it. What more can you do? You may need that money at that point. At that point, you pay so much money all the years, how you going to continue paying for that policy? Every year, you have to pay you a dime back. I think they found from the pick up their own policy for $15 a month. They blowing out and drinking.
My question is, for a person over 65, you advise them to purchase whole life or term?
I personally, well, it depends. Whole life policies for a person of 65 is really expensive. It's really expensive. So if your goal is just to make sure that your family has money to bury you, then I would get a term policy. Or look into a final expense policy. A final expense policy. But I just want to let you guys know that all insurance policies have a 2-year contestability period. So if something happens to you, but then those 2 years that you get the policy, the insurance company has a right to contest it, and it may take a while for your family to receive the money. So I just want you guys to know that you have to be as honest as possible on those applications. Because if you want to get a lower rating and say you don't smoke and you smoke and you die of lung cancer, your family won't get that money. They won't. All that money you put in, they won't get it. And as far as for me, I have a $200,000 life insurance policy, and I only pay $283 a month. My children each have a $100,000 policy on them, and there is it's actually $600 annually.
Well, that's great.
And the reason why I did that was not for them to. I got them a policy to supplement their retirement. That they can use that policy whenever they're ready. They can take that, put it back into it, and receive income monthly when they're retired. So that was my goal, to make sure that I know that they're living comfortably in their retirement. So you want to think about it. Sometimes people don't get life insurance because they want to leave it for their children and things like that. If you want, you could always get a trust to tell how you want your money to, how you want the money to be spent, as well as you can, that money that you put into that life insurance policy, you can change it and have it fund your retirement. So it's not a lost cause. So there's many ways that you can use that life insurance policy as an asset.
Thank you once again. Thank you all for participating in questions. Questions were good questions. And also I thank the panel also for participation. I'd definitely like to speak to one of y'all after this program. I need to make an appointment.
Thank you, Herman Francis, for stepping in and doing our question and answers. I'm going to get ready and close out the program. What I would like to do that I didn't do in the very beginning is just a libation statement. Our fathers and mothers came here, lived, loved, struggled, and built here. At this place, their labor and love rose like the sun and gave strength and meaning to the day. For them then, who gave so much, we give in return. On this soil, we will sow our seeds in liberation and higher level of human life. May our eyes be the eagle, our strength be the elephant, and the boldness of our life be like the lion. And may we honor and remember our ancestors and the legacy they left for as long as the sun shines and the water flows. For our people everywhere then, for Cleopatra, Nefertiti, Nzinga, Samori, Shaka, Yasantawa, and all others known and unknown who defended our ancestral history, humanity, and land from alien invaders. Ashe? Ashe. For Muhammad Ali, Samuel J. Battle became the first African-American police officer in New York City. Shirley Chisholm, Mary McLeod Bethune, Marcus Garvey, Fannie Lou Hamer, Malcolm X, Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Nate Turner, and all others who dared to defend, define, and develop our interests as a people. For our children in the freer and fuller lives they will live because we struggled. Roll call of those who died for our right to vote. Andrew Goodman, Michael Swerner, and James Chaney, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Lewis Allen, Vernon Damer, Medgar W. Evers, Andrew Goodman, Jimmy Lee Jackson, Reverend George W. Lee, Herbert Lee, Ms. Viola Luso, Reverend James J. Reed, Lamar Smith, whites who have lost their lives for the rights for blacks to vote. For Esther, Naomi, and Ruth, all women of noble character who can find she is worth far more than rubies, Proverbs 31. For Philip Pinnell, Amadou Diallo, Ramali Graham, Sean Bell, Alberta Sproul, Aina Jones, Michael Brown, Nicholas Haywood, Abner Louima, Trayvon Martin, Eric Garner, George Floyd, Andrew Brown Jr., Bernard Placid. You can call out any other names you know of. Also, all families who have been killed, murdered, and or shot by police. Breonna Taylor. Also, Chris Owens and all others as a result of gun violence. For our fathers, sons, and daughters, children in the freer and fuller lives will live because we struggled. For our late chairman, Reverend Dr. Wyatt T. Walker, my late pastor, Reverend Dr. Clarence P. Grant, Reverend Dr. Calvin O. Butts, who instituted this special day of commemoration and enlightenment. Also for our deceased family members, past, who have supported us along the way. You can call out the names are my paternal grandparents, Mr. and Mrs. Nixon, my maternal grandparents, Lenton and Josephine Carter, my parents, Milton O. Jones Sr., Ruthie Lane Carter Jones, Uncle Edward Jones, Arthur Carter, Melvin Carter, Richard Carter, Jerome Carter, Aunt Shirley Carter Spence, aunt-in-law Kathleen Carter, Renelle Carter, cousins Nanny Towns. Ashe. Finally, for our musicians who have transitioned from labor to reward, William C. Buster Bailey, Ubi Blake, Will Marion Cook, James Reese Europe, Johnny Jackson, Brooks Kerr, Larry Lucy, Willie J. Mack, Henry Mitten, Gladys Seals, Zuddy Singleton, Fred Staton, Dickie Wells, Fess Williams, Whitney Houston, Aretha Franklin, Michael Jackson, Brown, Fritz, Arabella Fonte,
Tina Turner.
And thank you to our President and Founder, Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton, and Chairman, Reverend Dr. Franklin who will lead us in the movements of building for continued struggle through which we will eventually reconstruct and rescue our history and humanity in our own struggle and according to our own needs, also our own image.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you everyone for your participation. And remember, our rallies are every Saturday morning from 9 to 11 right here in the House of Justice or on WLIB 1190 AM or Impact Television. We meet every fourth Saturday. I want to recognize Kathy Jordan Sharpton, the chairwoman of the National Action Network Women's Auxiliary. And all the Women Auxiliary members, I see some of you here, please stand. We have a birthday celebration coming up in October. That's the second Saturday in October. We meet every first Saturday in October. And remember the Political Action Committee, we meet every fourth Saturday in October. We want to thank our panelists for joining us on this afternoon. And we just pray everyone gets home and they find their home the way they left it. And we just want to end with this. May the Lord watch between me and thee while we're absent, one from another. Go in peace.